put me onto you as well, and she's been a fan ever since.
I remember that.
Yeah.
The first sounds of Afrobeats.
Yeah,
I
that's
think,
right.
which was probably like maybe 5-6 years ago now.
Yeah. It would have been. It was like when they were doing it at Greenwood.
And I think it was the first one that I played, and I had just moved back to Australia then, and it was like literally the first one that I played. It was probably one of the biggest parties that I played when I moved back here.
Oh, was it? Okay. Where were you before?
I lived in London for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Were you doing similar stuff there as well?
Yeah. So
that scene would have been crazy.
I mean, you can't compare.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
I mean, we're getting there now. It's taken a little while.
Yeah.
We're getting there now. But, you can't compare.
We're still babies. Our best years ahead of us, I still think.
I mean, we're a small country. Like, our population, it's hard.
That's true.
If we had a population like the UK in a, dense area, then we'd be okay. But the reality is our population is like the size of London for the whole country.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about, I guess, how you kind of got into the music scene. Was it something that you were always interested in when you were growing up? Or how did that kind of path come about?
I guess like I come from a musical family, so like my aunt is a music teacher, and we all grew up together. And I think I played lots of instruments growing up. Like I pretty much tried everything. I played the organ at one stage. Let me tell you, the organ is not cool when you're in primary school. Just want to put that out there. So I played the organ, the piano, the guitar. I think I even tried the violin for a hot minute, but and I just kind of like never followed through with it. But music was always in me growing up. Like I'm Mauritian, so like we grew up on music and then I think maybe when I was about 18, 19, I went to go watch a friend of mine DJ, and I was like, that's what I'm going to do. And then literally like I think the next year I got my decks. I taught myself how to DJ, and the rest is history.
What made you get it? What was it about DJing that got you?
The way that it moved the crowd, the way that you can take the crowd on a journey. Like it's like music invokes an emotion of some sort, so for me it was being able to take people on a journey and seeing their reaction for it.
What was like I guess some of your influences? I know you said you kind of have a music background through your family. What's that background like? Was it like instruments that your parents played, or? So
it's just really growing up, like, my parents were always playing music at home, grew up on like soul, R&B, and like neo soul is like, I grew up on that also. But yeah, just always playing instruments, and Mauritians, like with Sega music, there was always music being played at home. There's always some kind of party that everybody would be at, and it'd always be based around music, basically.
Yeah. What was kind of your first, I guess, gig, or what was kind of your first, and not so much, I guess, in terms of everyone else's and how everyone else kind of came about, but to you, what felt like the first time that you really got to kind of show that your appreciation for music, but also in terms of DJing, like what was kind of the first early memories of you being able to get to that point, something that you've always wanted to?
I honestly can say I probably wasn't until I moved to the UK.
Okay. Yeah.
Because like when I was in Australia, I was playing a genre that was still very specific to the US and the UK. So I was playing a lot of like New York garage, soulful house, deep house, which was popular here, but popular in the sense of I wasn't playing the commercial stuff. The sound that I was playing was still very underground. So I was, and that's one of the reasons I moved to the UK, because I was like, I don't want to play commercial music. I want to play this sound. So I'm going to go to where they play this sound, where I can play regularly, basically. So I'd say when I moved to London, and one of the first parties I did there for Tribe Records, that was probably like the reaction of the crowd and them just like knowing the music and just the feeling of that one. I'd probably say that was probably the first time. And I mean, that would probably be like, we'd go like, I'd been playing already for like 6 years then. So yeah.
Oh, at that point?
Yeah, at that point, yeah.
What was that scene like? What was the London scene like?
Oh,
yeah. So I got family there, and one of my first cousin, my cousin's sister, she's born and bred. Like, it's weird, right? To have a Sri Lankan that talks in thick Pommy accent.
English
you're like, fuck, you're my first cousin, you're my sister. I don't even understand what you're saying sometimes. What was that scene? But like, it's well documented, like the London scene, right?
Yeah.
You just kind of know what you're getting, but being there and seeing it, you could see how important that culture and, you know, even garage, but even just that underground music, and they all have their own subgenres, and, you know, and they all have a market for it as well.
Exactly.
You know, like a community of people that are into it.
And that's the thing with London. There's something for everyone. And you can go out and listen to that genre any, like, you know, at least one night of the week if you wanted to. Whereas here I still find it's still very far and few between, or it's mixed with lots of other genres. Whereas in the UK I felt like you could go and I could just play, I could just do me and the crowd would appreciate it. I wouldn't have to worry about, like, you know, okay, thinking about maybe play some commercial tracks.
Kind of specifically cater for people.
Just like literally to go somewhere and just do you and be appreciated for that. Like that's huge. Yeah. It's hard to find too sometimes. So the crowd is like, they're educated and they're about the music. Like they go out for the music. Yeah. Whereas you know, like some people just go out for the party, or they go out just to go out, for example. But I find in London, the scene there is like, we're going out because we want to hear this DJ, or we want to go to this party, basically.
Which is obviously different when you have those kind of intentions, right? When you're specifically trying to go check someone out.
Yeah.
So it must have been hard for you when you moved back, or?
It was really hard.
Yeah.
I reckon I probably had depression for like a whole year.
Yeah, because coming from like that kind of energy, and then
and I was gone for like 10 years. So like all my friends were in a different part. Like my old friends from like 10 years ago, they were all married and they had kids, and I'd just been partying around the world basically for the past 10 years. So, and then coming back and trying to find like my sound again, and I was like, oh, this is hard. But then when I came back and because when I left Australia, we didn't have anything like Sounds of Afrobeats. We didn't have any of those parties. The scene in terms of Afro or any kind of that music, it was kind of like non-existent when I left. You know, hip hop and R&B was there, but Afro, it was not there at all. Yeah. So when I came back and I saw Sounds of Afrobeats, I was like, it kind of like gave me a life. I was like, okay, I'm okay here. We're okay, basically. Yeah.
Kind of just got to ride the wave, right? Like I remember the first Sounds of Afrobeats, and then from like the first one to what it's now eventuated to be, and also now like collaborating with other kind of, you know, music organizations or brands or whatever it is, but you know, it's hard, right? Like I remember speaking to one of the organizers, Nick, who's a good man of mine, about it as well, and I was like, bro, it must be hard, right? Because the first one it's something about the first one you'll never forget, but also the vibe, and you know, certain parties or you know, kind of you know, this kind of layout. It's very intimate, right? And it's really nice when it's intimate, when it's not like crazy, you know what I mean? Yeah. But you also can't help it, because if the brand ends up growing, you're going to have to kind of
grow with it,
you know? And I said to Nick, like, you know, I love the crowd, but I still remember when it was just intimate, and, you know, it was like a very loungy feel, you know, like back in the day when Red Room and stuff used to give you that vibe. And I said, that's the vibe we used to give out. But I said, it's so good, like, because like I never knew how big Afrobeats was. Like my wife is the one that kind of introduced me into that genre. Like I was always into like, you know, kind of reggaeton and that kind of vibe. But, you know, obviously to this extent I wasn't, you know, really aware, let alone kind of knowing who to kind of listen to or whatnot. But there's a market for it. There's a massive market for it. And the one thing that tripped me out the most was, you know, naturally you're going to think Afro, so you're going to think people of Afro background, right? You know, Africans and etc. But it was just so many different people, and some of the people that were from like different tone, you know, color. Man, word for word, they were like for word. They would know what's going. And I was like,
they don't even know what they're singing about. They're singing in pidgin, and they don't understand.
Yeah, they don't understand, but they know the lyrics. They know, And so it was crazy. It was just a crazy experience in that sense. But what's your perspective on just the music scene now from when you left, and also kind of do you see it kind of breaking out and into all these different genres, and in terms of kind of catering for certain communities now as well? Do you see it kind of like, you know, back in the day, obviously there was just hip hop, rap, and, you know, rock and whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
But now it seems to be like there's people, and there may not be, like you said, in terms of population, might not be a massive chunk of people that are into it, but it seems like there's a push for different scenes, you know, to cater for people now.
Definitely, and I think that's also because we are becoming, as a country, there's more immigration, basically. So there's more people coming in. Like there's more people from like when I left, you know, 15 years ago, there weren't many Africans in Australia at that stage. But obviously a lot of Africans have now migrated to Australia, and they are the ones that have built that, basically, because it's their sound. So they've been able to build that sound for it. Whereas before that we were like such a small community that there was not much to build on, if that makes sense. So the fact that, you know, there is much more diversity and stuff, then that's definitely going to help build on the scene where we are now. And the funny thing is like realistically, like Afrobeats now is like it's almost like commercial music.
I was gonna say, I would even go as far as saying it's in your top 5 genres for 100%. Sure in the world now. Like you got other artists that are kind of biting into that sound now because they know how popular it is, right? And I think that's one of the things, because you know, you listen to some of the commercial stuff, but then there's that real hardcore, like you said, that underground stuff, which is, you know, like my wife always complains about it, because she's like, man, like this is all commercial shit. Like she goes, you need to go to SoundCloud to really listen to the real deal.
She's on it. She's so
that's
on
what I'm
it.
saying. Like she's like legit. I'm talking the real one. Like, you know, like now when people say I listen to dancehall, you can guarantee like a good 30-40% of it is that commercial stuff. But she's tied to that.
She's in there. She's searching all the latest. Like
she goes, man, you know, she'll be sending me SoundCloud links. I'm like, SoundCloud,
that's
this is crazy.
I love that. See,
so
and that's the thing. More people like that is going to build that also. So, and I think the only problem I would say we have here is like our DJs are still too scared to play.
Oh, really? Okay.
Popular songs.
That's
what I think.
Interesting.
Like, I get that we have to play popular songs, but a DJ's job, ideally, this is a thing. The art. I mean, I could go on for this for ages.
We'll dive into the art of it, because I would like to.
Yeah, I find the art of DJing is kind of been lost along the way, and and I think that's because of like Serato, like controllers being so easily accessible. Like it's great and everything, but now anyone can pick up a controller and, you know, go and learn how to DJ, which is all fine, but there's more to just mixing tracks in DJing. It's about programming. It's about knowing when to drop the tracks. It's about knowing like the melodies of the tracks and which 2 tracks go together. And I find now with like and people only want to play popular songs. They don't, like, every week, every Friday, there's so much music that gets released, right? And so there's no reason that any DJ should be playing the same songs. Do you know what I mean? We should not be playing the same songs. We should. There's so much, and the thing also is the shelf life of music has changed because there's new music being dropped every Friday. It's not like you have a piece of vinyl that you play for 2-3 months.
And attention spans are like that now these days,
Internet.
right? Yeah, that's it.
Internet.
Exactly. Because ideally, and I'm so glad you kind of went down that path, because I would like to really kind of, you know, look into that whole art of DJing aspect. And what you said was that, like, because you're essentially controlling a whole room or whatever it is, and the energy in the room. And if you can, and even with the music, non-commercial music, if you can back yourself and play certain vibes, I mean, I would like to think, if you're a fan of music, and this probably goes back to what you said earlier, like in London, people were coming out to check out DJs. So I feel like that gives you the advantage to play whatever you want to play and still be able to move them, as opposed to I'm DJing at a party and I got to have a list of songs that kind of I know everyone knows or is commercial, right? But that's part of it, right? Is to play music where you got someone going like, whoa, what's that kind of thing, right? And like, you know, being in hip hop and stuff, like, and it's well documented, like they go to DJs to break records, right?
Break music. You know what I mean? You used to go and hear DJs to hear what the latest was out there.
That?
If you are not in a set and you haven't Shazammed one song,
That's
Like-
it. That's it.
like-
That's such a good way to
like
put it.
what?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you go to a set and you don't have to Shazam one song, I mean, except for your wife.
Yeah. No. She's
But
still
like-
Shazam, man. She's
but
still,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
back in the day, for me, I mean, we didn't have Shazam there either. But like you'd go and I'd be like, wow, what's this? And then
Yeah.
you'd like wait and then go and ask the DJ, what track is this kind of
Yeah,
thing? Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's DJing
Yeah.
was to break new music.
Yeah.
And whilst they are still breaking new music, but I find like there's just so much music that not
Yeah.
like if I'm playing and there's like maybe 4 other DJs playing, those 4 other DJs should not be playing any of the songs that I've played.
Yeah,
That's the reality of it, you know?
Because it's quite rare that back in the day, like, you would hear the same song. I mean, something's wrong if you hear the same song in the same night twice. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like later on,
Yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
dude, we just heard this track.
Right?
You know what I mean?
I mean, like you used to go to Red Room,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
you go Red Room, you go
Yeah.
there from start to end.
Yeah.
None of those
None of that,
DJs, you'd
yeah.
never hear the same songs.
Yeah.
Because there was so much. There's still
Yeah.
so much music out there, and I mean, even back then, we were playing on vinyl.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
you know, when I started DJing, I was learning to play. Like, I learnt on vinyl basically,
Yeah.
and so I literally had to prepare my set, and like that was what I was playing. If I like, I mean, obviously you prepare for your set and then you go out of it, but like. Whatever was in my crate was in my crate. It's not like I could go and find something else.
Which is crazy as well, because that whole game has changed, right? And I've spoken to obviously DJs that still kind of, you know, believe in the, you know, in being able to flip records like, you know, live, you know what I mean? As opposed to having it preloaded and whatever. But obviously the game's changed a little bit. But even with like, I feel like with music in general now, like, I think, you know, I always joke around with some people, even with some of my mates who try like send me records, like have you know, and I go, man, you guys are Billboard music listeners, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it.
And the
top
point I'm
40.
trying, that's it. And the point I'm trying to make is, I feel like somewhere along the way we've let business and marketing determine why we love music. Like, just, you know, look at the whole, you know, like right now, like the whole trend is going independent and all these things, right? And a lot of that has come off the back of the fact that, man, these guys are making quality music.
Yeah.
But it's what's being fed to people is this commercial stuff. And it seems like anything else, if it's not, hasn't got a heavy backing in terms of, you know, in terms of its marketing, in terms of the popularity based on whatever platform that they listen to, whether it's Spotify, top whatever, or whatever it is, it's almost like, I don't know, it's almost like it's disrespected in such a way. It's not listened to the same way.
Yeah.
But like certain music I listen to, whether it's from independent, whether it's not in the Billboard top 40, man, it's like if someone came and told you, forget about Billboard, forget about anything, I just want you to listen to tell me if you really like this in comparison to another song that is there. And don't tell them anything, man. You'd be surprised how many people probably pick a track that's not going to land on the top 40 or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I feel like just the way we listen to music, the way we forgot why we listen to music in the first place, it's not about, oh, what's the hottest thing? It's like how it makes you feel, how it makes you move. And so for me, I'm a big fan of the fact that if you go to a place and they break out new music, you want to be that person that's like, fuck, what is that? Like, you know what I mean? Like that was one of the most kind of exciting parts about discovering new music. It was that like, man, like what is that? Like that's a dope track. Like, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's a lot to do with even like, say, even just with Aussie artists trying to break out, whether it's in hip hop or whatever. It's the same thing. We have this mentality that, oh, okay, there's Aussie artists, you listen to them, but then it's like, you know, but you're not at the same level as, you know what I mean? But I just feel like that business and marketing side of things have really pulled back people in terms of showing the respect and also just listening to it for what it is, as opposed to, is it worth listening to because, oh, this artist is not at the same level as someone that I listen to, you know? So I feel like that aspect of music has changed a lot too, because for me, it doesn't matter whether it's commercial or not commercial. if it's a dope track, it's a dope track. I'm going to listen to it, and I'm listening to it in my car. You know what I mean?
That's it. And that's the thing. Like, don't get me wrong. I feel like we all love to go out and hear songs that we know also, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, our sets shouldn't be completely like all tracks that we try. But it's got to be a mix of both. Do you know what I mean? It's got to be a mix of breaking new tracks and playing the tracks that people know and that they're like, it takes them back to a place. So, But a lot of the music artists or DJs, whatever they are, they're just not artists and DJs anymore. You're a promoter, your social media marketing. You've got to do everything now. Back in the day, it was like, okay, you just focus on your music and that's it. But they don't, like, artists don't get that opportunity anymore. It's hard. It's good because more people can like just go out and release their own music, so it's good in that sense. Like, you don't have to be signed to a label or get picked up by someone, which in that sense
put on straight
really
on streaming
great.
Services and things like that. So there's the pros and cons.
There's pros, and then the cons is that, like, as an artist, you're not just an artist anymore. Like, you can't just focus on the music. You got to focus on your whole marketing, your branding, TikTok, Instagram, all the things that I hate. I just feel like I'm too old for those things. That's the problem.
But I think it's also the fact that, like, when you want to specify in something and you're passionate about one particular thing, you want that to be the driver's seat for everything that you do, right?
Yeah.
Then there's all these other things you got to do, and it's almost like, well, is it really worth it if I'm not passionate about it? You know what I mean? Because it's like anything, right? If you're not really passionate about it, it's just it's not going to feel natural to do it that way, right? 100%. So I feel like that's the challenge that everyone has now, even artistically. Is you got to go and do all these extras that, you know what I mean? Like, you just wish you could just do it. Talk a little bit about the music scene here, and I guess, like, some of your favorite sets that you've that you've had around here.
Look, sounds like Afrobeats is hands down got to be like probably my favorite sets. But although I did play last Sunday at Freaky Sunday, and that was pretty lit. I saw some. That looked like it was going off. That was pretty lit. And actually a couple months ago, on their boat party, that was actually. So I quite enjoy playing for like Sounds Afrobeats and Freaky Sunday. I like playing for parties where I can do me kind of thing. Because like my sound, like, I don't really play Afro beats as such. I play more Amapiano and Afro house. That's always been my, my genre basically. So the fact that I get to play those like freely, that's what makes me happy. Do you get people calling you back like for these events? I mean, I'm assuming because you have obviously done it a couple of times. What's kind of like, do you have, I mean, obviously, there's fans and whatnot, but do you run into people at these events and stuff that have kind of checked your music out and your mixes and stuff like that? I get people that come up to me, and if I'm out, they're like, "Oh, are you playing today?" I'm like, "Yes, I am." But I'm still very shy. I'm like, "Okay." But I do get that a lot. I also get people hit me up on Instagram like, "Oh, are you playing at this party?" I'm like, "Yes, I am." So it's nice. It's a nice feeling because it means people appreciate your music and appreciate what you're doing.
100%.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the mentality in terms of DJing and just your preparation, and even just, I guess, what is it like? What is it like on the day, on the night? You start your set. What's kind of going through your mind, and what are some of the things that we should appreciate that you're kind of, you're looking for and you're doing in terms of carrying on that energy for your set?
I guess in terms of preparation, I still prepare like I'm preparing for vinyl, like I prepare my set in terms of like what I think I might play on the day, even though I don't use vinyl anymore, but I still prepare in that sense. And then it's weird. I always find that like if I'm nervous, then that's a good thing, because I feel like if you're not nervous before a gig, then do you really love it? That's my theory, right? Some gigs are obviously like, if it's just like a chill bar gig and stuff like that, obviously not.
Because it shows what it means to you, right?
Yeah, exactly. So like, and plus also because like I want to, for me, it's because it's still always about the music. I'm always about, okay, I'm going to play stuff that people don't know, and I'm going to make sure that it works and that I'm not going to lose the dance floor. So that for me is like one of the big things that I go into, like when I go into a set, is like, okay, I'm not playing what everyone else is playing. I'm going to do me basically, but I got to make sure that I don't lose the dance floor whilst doing it. Yeah. Because, you know, a lot of the stuff I play is not commercial or not known. It is more known now because Amapiano is becoming a more popular genre. But I'd say those are the things. And then obviously while I'm DJing, you know, that's the other thing with laptop DJs too, you know, like being in your laptop the whole time. Are you watching the crowd?
Scanning the crowd,
you know? It's really important when you drop a track and to look at the crowd and see how the crowd's reacting to it. People start going on their phone, not for filming, but for like texting or whatever, or people start chatting. You got to change it up, you know, like things like that I'm looking for when I'm DJing, you know, the energy. I'm always thinking like 2 tracks ahead also, like what are the next 2 tracks that I'm going to play? So yeah,
that's pretty dope. Like, I guess, I mean, not that it's a bad thing, but I guess it can be a bit disheartening because it's kind of a sense of pride, right? If you see people on the phone and things, you take it almost personal. You're like,
they're bored.
Yeah. Like, I don't want people on the phone. Yeah, exactly. I want people.
Get off. Unless you're filming me, get off. Or filming the crowd, get off. Or you're, I don't know, asking me a friend is cool, but like, that's, or, you know, you're going to the bar. That is the reality of it. Yeah. But at the same time, in saying that, like, you also need to let people breathe in your sets.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like, I don't need to be like
continuously high frequency the whole time.
You don't need to be here the whole time.
Yeah.
People need to have like, they need to breathe.
So how do you manage that? Toilet. Like what kind of goes into your process in terms of?
I kind of look at the tracks in terms of like the energy of the tracks basically. Okay. So like, you know, if I feel like it needs a breather, then I might just drop the energy a little bit.
Yeah.
And then it allows people to be like, okay, this is a time I can go to the toilet. But the track drops in energy, but not enough to lose the crowd. Just to let people breathe kind of thing. And that's the other thing is that we do need to let people breathe, you know. It's important.
Like, you're going to have a whole bunch of people passing out and shit.
Well, not just that, but like DJing also is like, it's about taking people on a journey. It shouldn't be like this the whole time. You know what I mean?
I agree.
We should be building it, and then this is how it should be basically. So, but I think also, you know, I started DJing at a time where you played like 5-hour sets. Yeah. You know, now it's like you get a 1-hour set. There's not much journey you can take at that time, you know? But I do think it's important to let people breathe too. Like it doesn't just need to be here the whole time. Yeah. So it's just really, I kind of like have some tracks in my back pocket. Breathing tracks. Nice. Or I call them toilet tracks if I have to go to the bathroom. Yeah.
Nothing worse than waiting to buy a drink and then you do hear the track you want on and you're like, far out, man.
You got to run back.
Do I get the drink? Do I go back? You know what I mean? Yeah. But I get what you mean because you want to break it up. You want to allow people to kind of go and whether they go to the bar or the bathroom or whatever and be able to feel like, you know, you're not going to miss out on anything either, right? Constantly,
and then the true hardcore fans, they will be there from the start to the end anyway because they want to hear every song that you're playing, so it's fine. But it's like the other guys that maybe not so much, then at least they have that time to like, you know, go bathroom, get a drink or whatever, go find their friends.
I remember actually, I think it was Lisa Viola was performing at one of the Afrobeats. I don't know, it was the first or second one.
I think it was the second one.
It was the second one, wasn't it? Yeah, because I took a whole bunch of people. Like for the second one, we dragged a whole bunch of people with us. I remember, but I'm actually in one of the videos. When she was performing, she was giving the mic out to people in the crowd.
Oh wow!
I didn't want nothing to do with it. My sister-in-law and my wife and my cousin were there, and they're like, oh fuck, give it to him. So there's a full-blown proper video. Amazing. It's even in the promo. Where she sings something, she makes me sing it to the crowd.
Great.
And so, you know, I can't sing, but like I just kind of repeated it. And I remember I was in such a like zen mood that I did some like MC shit. I was like, sounds of Afrobeats, what the fuck is and you see everyone just kind of losing their shit. But it was like almost like a awesome moment because I got to kind of feed off
her energy.
Yeah, her energy. And then obviously like just what was going on kind of thing. So it was good in that sense. But yeah, it was just a memory that came up because when you were talking about it. But talk a little bit about, I guess, the music scene here, and what's your thoughts. We'll touch on neo soul as well because it's one of my favorite genres.
Yeah.
So, but like how do you see the music scene here? How do you see the music scene here in terms of catering for DJs? I've always been of the belief, right? Especially with what I'm doing, like not just in the podcast scene, but with my brand Mercenary Entertainment, kind of it's targeted towards like pop culture and sports in Australia. And maybe 10, 12 years ago when I first had the idea was that I believed one day we would go down the route of what Europe and America and just that whole, that culture, music, food, clothing, all interconnecting like it. It doesn't, being hip hop fans, you would know, like that's how we grow up.
It's
we
a
grow
culture.
Up, it's a culture, right? And I always believed that we were babies and we're behind. That's why when you touched on it earlier about going to London and all that, I said, I can understand that. But I always felt like one day, eventually, that influence is going to come to our shores and, we're going to have those opportunities to create that culture here because of so many migrants and, and et cetera. What's kind of, how do you kind of foresee it? Because like I said, I still believe we're in the infant stage of that aspect. And I think it takes pioneers and people like yourself to keep pushing that boundary so that it's going to be a norm one day for the next generation. But what's your thoughts on like that music scene and in terms of DJing and in terms of just that whole culture here?
I think it's like it's growing. I think during COVID is what kind of put us on the map, if that makes sense. Okay. Because realistically, like when we were in COVID, even though we were like shut down, but we were like in this bubble. So like Australian artists, like we were still doing stuff, but just in Australia. So the rest of the world was watching us, and because they couldn't do anything. They were like in lockdowns, like so long, but we were just in our bubble basically. So I think they were like watching us, and I think, and since like the borders have opened, especially in the Afro scene, like there's so many Afrobeats artists coming to Australia. So I think like Omalay was the first one that kicked it off. And then I think just that one and that show being so good, like, and Omalay is like, wow, I didn't know Australia got down like this. Do you know what I mean? Because like it was like a sold out show. And I think for them, they're like, they don't know that Australia can do this because we've never done this before. But now they know that we can do this. Literally, I think there's something like 5 or 7 Afrobeats artists coming over from like Nigeria and South Africa in the next 3 months. Wow. Like, so I think that is really kind of like put us on the map in the sense that, we can get down like the rest of the world. We have a small population, but we can still get down like the rest of the world. So I think that's going to be really good for the scene in terms of like us kind of like being on par. The reality is we will always be a season behind because of like we're in the Southern Hemisphere. That's the reality of it. I mean, it's not a bad thing, but I think it's going to be good. I think if it continues on the trajectory that we are right now, then it'll be good. The only thing is we don't want to oversaturate the. Yeah, fair enough. We don't want to oversaturate it so that like us, like we're like, okay, and something else is like we still want it to make it like, oh wow, this is something exciting. This is something special that not just like, okay, another one and another one and another one, which is it's great for now because we haven't had anything for 2 years, and there's so many people that want to come to Australia, but I think doing that first show and putting us on the map and them seeing that Australia can get down, really helped us as a scene. In terms of bringing like loads of other, artists that wouldn't normally come to Australia, for example.
It seems like that way too now. Like it seems like that people are more willing to come down here and realizing that, there is a whole bunch of fan base. I mean, I've heard hip hop artists say like some of the craziest crowds that they've had, or like in terms of just like tripping out at how well they know their music is Aussie crowds. Because I just think where we are, we're like, secluded from the rest of the world in such a way as well.
We're always on the internet.
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
the thing.
that's a thing. Yeah.
So like, I was reading an article about this. Apparently, like our fan base in terms of internet is like one of the highest.
Oh wow!
Because we don't actually get to access it. So for us, because of the internet, like when people come down, it's like, oh okay. But you know, like even artists, like you know, like we had Earth Gang just before.
Yeah, I love them, man.
But like they're big, but they're not like popular like a Drake, you know what I mean?
That's
but they
the
still
point.
do shows. So I think things like that, and people love them, like Bars, like you know, Freddie Gibbs, all those people come into Australia. Those like, and you know, there's a crowd for them. They're doing like, they're selling out. Even Masego, you know, like when he first came to Sydney, I remember maybe 4 or 5 years ago, he did like the Hudson, the club in Kent Street or wherever. And now we did the Metro and sold out, you know. So like I do think that, you know, in all genres, because of the internet, we you know, they're like, oh okay, Australia's, you know, it's getting down now. We're there.
Yeah. I mean, that's a perfect example of what you just said, like with Earth Gang and all of that. Like, you know, in terms of commercial marketability and in terms of that Drake reach, right? It's different, right? But now if you are someone like me who's a genuine fan, I shit you not, I've been walking around within the last 6 months saying Earth Gang's probably in my top 3 favorite groups right now. And their latest album, Ghetto Gods, is probably one of my favorite albums that they've released. Like, I'm not even lying to you. I've got it on my playlist and I love that album. And I think it's one of the craziest from start to finish albums I've heard in a long time. I even put a post up on it and everything. Now, any person that genuinely loves music or has certain things might not go out of their way to listen to it, right? It's like, oh, who's Earth Gang? But fuck, you go to Atlanta, you go to, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
Just in hip hop, they're well respected. You know what I mean? Like, people respect their music and, you know, they've obviously got that whole, you know, Outcast vibe and moniker on them as well, being from Atlanta and, you know, being 2 people as well. But again, like, you know, I listen to Freddie Gibbs, all that, but like even Earth Gang, if they came down here, I would literally act like, damn, I'm about to watch Earth Gang. You know what I mean?
It'd be like a Drake.
Yeah,
that's do you know what I mean? It'd be a Drake for
that's
like
the point I'm trying to make.
The normal public, basically.
Like I've seen Mac Miller live, you know, I've seen Joey Badass live, like being to those little ones, you realize they're like at the Enmore Metro. But you're like, damn, like, you know what I mean?
But those are the best shows.
That's what I'm saying.
The ones at the Enmore and Metro.
Oh, my Lord.
Those are the best shows.
I go on about how amazing Enmore is just for a concert, because I'm like, I just love the concept, the closeness, and just that being in that one place. I've seen so many artists. I saw Nas there as well. So many at the Enmore, and I thought it's such a perfect venue for that, you know? It's not too big, and it's intimate, but it's
intimate enough.
But
there's still enough people
there.
It's
crazy. Crazy how packed it can get. You know what I mean? So that's a perfect example. Like, just, you know, how all these Earth Gang, all these guys. Because I always, and you know what's crazy? Like, I remember I went to like Schoolboy Q, and I went to somewhere else, and you know, you go there thinking, like, number one, who's gonna be there, and number two, you're like, man, like, I'm gonna go listen to these guys, and you just don't know the geographic. And the geographic surprises the fuck out of me every single time. I'm like, there was guys next to me that I would have like, and not because, you know, I'm like, oh, I don't expect guys like you to be here or girls like you to be here. It's just, you don't think about it when you're listening to the music. Like, you know what kind of people you're gonna see there. But man, they would look like the most non-hip-hop people. 100%. And word for fucking word. And I'll be right next to them. And I'll be like, yo. Like, and the most, like, I remember I ran into, I went to the Blues Festival when D'Angelo was here. And so that's what I saw by Near Soul, and I remember some dude came up to me and we were talking about some artists. And he mentioned this artist to me that 90% of the people wouldn't know. And it was just this Aussie kid. And he's like, man, do you listen to this guy? You know, and blah, blah, blah. I was like, fuck. I'm like, you listen to him? He's like, yeah, man.
So is that us being ignorant?
Yeah, that's what I mean, right?
That's what I think so too, though.
And I was tripping out. I was like, man, like you could put $1 million and I wouldn't have ever expected someone to rock up to me at this place, let alone talk about an artist. I felt like you needed to be all in the hip hop scene to know what who he is or the significance or the music or whatever it is. But it really opened my eyes and I realized, holy shit, like you just don't know the market or the geographics or the people that are listening to this music until you go to these end malls and all these places and you're like, damn, man, like I never like knew that these people get down, like, you know what I mean? And word for word, like word for word, like it's like they're, you know what I mean? It's crazy, you know?
I went to the Bars show and he pulled up someone from the stage to do the song with him.
Yeah.
And this kid knew literally he could have done it better than Bars, basically.
Yeah.
And I was like, is he going to say the N-word? Is he going to say the N? And then he just stopped and then he kept going.
Oh, did he? Yeah, the crowd would have given him a clap. They would have learned from the whole Kendrick and that situation as well.
It's quite amazing, to be honest, because even when I went, I think it was the Bars and maybe even the Earth Gang show when I went to it, and I was looking because I was up top and I was looking at all these kids and they're all just like going, knowing all the songs. And I'm like, like way more songs than I do. I mean, I'm a fan, but you guys are like fans.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. That's probably a perfect way to put it. You go in there like, man, I'm a fan. Yeah. And then you meet the like fans. You're like, it's crazy. And like, you know, as bad as it sounds, they do not look like what you expected them to look like. You know what I mean?
That's us judging.
That's us judging, 100%.
I'll put my hand up for that. That's us judging.
But it's so good to see, though. It's so good to see.
But music is universal. That's what we have to remember, you know. Like,
and I think that's the point I was trying to make about these Billboard 40s and all this is that I think somewhere along the line we forgot that music is subjective to anybody, right? Like it's however it makes you feel. And it goes back to even when you're talking about my wife and, you know, SoundCloud, when she makes these dancehall tracks. And, you know, and then I meet people and, you know, like, and they'd like, man, you know, you listen to dance or they play these tunes. And I'm like, listen, man, I'm like, you got to be, you know, I'm like, there's dance. Then there's that real dancehall shit. You know what I mean? And I really like, and it's like when it comes to hip hop, that's how I get, right? Because it's like, people are like, oh, he's, you know, the best artist or he's like blah, blah, blah. But then it's like, it's subjective. It's like, how are you basing it on? Are you basing it on the amount of
streams,
Grammys they've won, or streams, or you know what I mean? Because it's a machine. In the end of the day, like it all. You know, you put a machine behind an artist that's got a bit of talent. They can make that artist the best artist in the world. You know what I mean? So it's like, what are you really looking for, right? And then if you're looking at, you know, what's top 10, top 20, some of these artists or this music, really good music, won't even reach it there because it's more than just it's good music, you know, in the business side of things, you know what I mean? So talk a little bit about neo soul and that influence on you and that genre.
I just like it's actually probably my favorite genre. You know, because I grew up on R&B, but neo soul is just, it hits different. It just hits different. And then when I lived in London, the beauty of it is that like, because it's so close, like I could go to neo soul shows like every week. You know, here it's because it's not a popular genre. It's very far and few between. But like I was literally seeing Eric Roberson like every 3 months, or Jill Scott would come. You know, Marsha Ambrosius. Like I get to see all of them. So I don't know. For me, it's the music, like the lyrics, everything about neo soul. It's just hits different.
I got a whole playlist on Tidal. And like a neo soul, so it's got Jill Scott, Erykah Badu, you know, D'Angelo, all those guys, like that golden era. But yeah, man, it's the same thing for me. Like neo soul is something I wouldn't say I was always into, but something that I got into. But now it's like easily in the top, you know, in terms of genre that I listen to. And it's something that someone said to me. We were listening to Brown Sugar, and he was saying to me, he's like, man, it doesn't matter what mood you're in, you could just fucking play this album, you know. But that's just neo soul in general. Like whether you're chilled out, whether you want to zone out, whether you're just in that mood. There's always, you know, it just caters for everything. It's just the sound. It's just the sound, the vibe, the way it makes you feel. It's just, I don't know. It's just, it's crazy. And it's its own genre too. You know what I mean? Like you know, you can't really.
It's close to R&B, but it's really
but
its
not.
own genre. Like I look at it this way too. You know, like you look at the Jill Scotts and the Marsha Ambrosius, and like if you actually listen to the lyrics of the songs, they are the fair few people that can sing about what they sing about without sounding ratchet. If you think about it, it's pretty non-PG, the stuff they sing about. But they make it sound like it's still a beautiful song. Like, we're not being dirty right now. It's still beautiful. 100%. Do you know what I mean?
And I had this conversation with someone about it the other day. I was like, man, have you noticed, like, when you think about real R&B and all that, they used to make it fucking sound like they would make the most nasty shit sound so sexy, right? And so fucking like.
And we'd be out here singing it.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And you say it back to your head. You're like, holy fuck, right? I just know what they say. You know what I mean? But the way they say it, you know what it is? It sounds so classy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you realize that alone takes a bit of talent, like to not have to say it in such a way that it sounds demeaning.
Exactly.
But you know what? They say it with such class. You know what I mean? 100%. And it sounds so nice. And that's, I'm glad you said that, because it's something that I've always said, you know, that I miss about that real R&B. It's not so much, you know, obviously there's debates, 90s and all that. But it's not to say that modern day R&B can't be like that. It's just not like that,
it's
you
not.
know, where you could,
I don't think it ever will be. That sound was like great. And, you know, I'm still yet to find someone that can match, you know, to do that sound again. Like, it was an era that, I mean, you can't match.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous, right? And it's just like, it's like you look at that era and you just look at, let's just take hip hop for instance in general. Let's include R&B in it, but it's just the vast, like, it was just like competition, you know, like it's just, you had multiple people that just made multiple hot singles. Like it wasn't like someone stood out, or, you know, there was just a school of people that just, you know what I mean?
They were all on their game.
All of them. Yeah, that's it. It was just ridiculous. Like just the consistency in multiple people making hot records. You know what I mean? Not all of them reached number one, but you can guarantee they all were either respected by people that did always hit that, you know, upper echelon in terms of charting music, but it was just, a competition was crazy. Like, you could just go anywhere and anyone, and they just had a hot single, you know, or a really good song, a really good album. And going back to albums, like, that's a big aspect of, like, which I feel is missing now, which goes back to what you said, just with the era that it is now, with streaming and ways to make money and whatnot. Like, I just miss playing play and listening to a whole project. And that is something that I listen to now. Like, when someone releases an album, like Earth Gang, like Ghetto Gods, the latest one, man, from start to finish, it was just fucking ridiculous. And like, there was obviously 3 tracks that really stood out to me that to this day I listen to. But now I look at like whole projects, you know, because I feel like that's what it was about. It's about going on a journey. It's about being able to see how they put a whole concept together, you know, and it's
telling a story.
That's you know, and I just miss that aspect of that music and that artistic aspect where you could just sit down and really listen to it and be like, by the time you get to the end of that project or the album, you're like, damn, like, you know, there's so much. And
like, you felt you were part of it.
Yeah. Like, you look at some of the greatest even neo soul albums, man, it was just like, it was crazy. Like, you just like, where am I? You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. But the problem nowadays is that, like, unless you are a major artist like Drake, Kendrick, or whatever, you can't be making albums because music gets lost. Like, 100%. You know, if I'm an artist and I went and dropped an album, people would probably listen to like 2 songs on it, because I'm not Drake. People will only sit down and listen to a Drake or a Kendrick or a Kanye from start to finish, or an Earth Gang, like Lovers Like You. But like, unless you are on that level, people aren't listening to albums. They're listening to EPs, or they're listening to singles, but they're not listening to full albums unless you are on that level. So
it's almost a preconceived like notion, right? Like Drake could drop the shittest album and he'll have 1 million listeners. You know what I mean?
Did you listen to the new Drake album? What do you think?
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised he made an album like that. I saw it coming, you know. I wouldn't even, to be honest, I felt like he was going for a dancehall vibe, but I wouldn't really call it a dancehall vibe. I can see that
it's a house.
Yeah, it's like a house thing. That's what which I didn't see.
Love it.
Yeah,
I'm
but
here for it.
but I it suits him. Like that vibe. Like we listened to it the other day. We we press play start to finish. But I like the sound of it, and I like the vibe of it. You know, and I could see that he specified particularly for it. So I'm for it, man. Like I wasn't like disheartened. Like, to be honest, I wouldn't say I'm the biggest Drake fan, but there are certain tracks that always, hits, I mean, Views for me was probably one of my favorite albums out of him that I listened to. Then, a lot of his like just random single drops and stuff like that I listen, where he really raps. I like that. And then I love his other stuff. Like this album, I love it because it's a whole vibe. You put it on, you could just, you know what I mean? You can kind of let it play in the background. So I liked it. And I like people that like to push the envelope a little bit and try something different. But I'm not surprised he did it. Like when I heard it, I was like, man, this was coming. Like this kind of, because he had it in him. You could see the influences here and there in certain songs, but to have a whole album, I thought it was pretty dope that he did that. So, and that's the thing. Like, I never want anyone to sound the same either. Like,
No.
you want everyone to sound different, even if the top echelon, like your Drakes, your J. Coles and everyone, they all have their own little lane that they tap into, you know what I mean? Which I like, because I don't want it all sounding the same.
No.
You want to go to a certain artist because you know what they're catering.
And I think Drake's album is showing people that you don't just have to stay in your lane 24/7. If you're established, you can go out of that.
Yeah.
But I think the most important for me in that album is that it was co-produced with Black Coffee.
Yeah.
The fact that Drake has an African producing that album for him, like that in itself, that in itself for me is like, it's you would never have that.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have a South African producer that's produced Drake's album. Like that in itself is like, huge. It's huge.
And you think about it, he's always, he's always been, people have always said he's by his sound, but I personally think he was always a genuine fan. And I feel like even with dancehall, with all these artists, breaking these artists or bringing these artists into the commercial world, he did such a good job at it.
Yeah.
And he's always got, watch artist interviews and stuff. He's got such a good reputation, like in terms of like breaking artists and allowing them to have that platform. They always say like, this dude always does it, and I felt like he did that with dancehall. Like, when you talk about commercial dancehall music now, he created that, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
He helped bring those guys like, sound like, to that commercial level where you're like, wow, like what is this sound? Whereas it's obviously been existent, with all these other artists like Marshall Montana and all these guys that have been, done it before.
And he did it with grime also.
Yeah, he did it with grime as well. That's it, man.
Brought, all the UK artists in, and it's the kind of like what made grime popular in the US. So I think he's always been good at doing that. But
so I think it's pretty dope that he did that, and then kind of opened that avenue. And I feel like you only do that when you're a genuine fan too. You can only fake it to make it so, you know what I mean, for so long, But for here, you could tell, like, you only got to just look at the way, the amount of music he just manages to always put out as well, right? You could tell, like, you have to be someone who loves it in order to, and then put out all these different type of genres as well, and the way he kind of mixes, like you said, with the grime scene, and even just not in America, because Drake is such an international superstar. 100%. When he puts it out, man, people like, all of us all around the 100%. World are, you know what I mean?
Afrobeats, everything.
Yeah, everything. Exactly.
The song with Wizkid, like.
Yeah.
It's, so.
Yeah. Wizkid's another one. Like, my wife was complaining. She's like, man, we had a chance to go see him when it was like peanuts to pay for a ticket, like sometime.
Here?
Yeah, here.
I played that.
Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was some time ago though, right?
Yeah, it was before COVID actually.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, I believe it was before COVID. She was
spewing, And she's like, man, I don't know when we'll get to see him again, but
he'll come out again.
Yeah, I think he'll come out
because like they're all coming out. Like Burna Boy is going to be here at the end of the year.
Yeah. See, Burna's another one. Before Burna, Collateral Damage and that whole album came out, she was like.
She was already on him.
Oh, man. She'd tell me about this Burna Boy, this and that. And she's like, full like, babe, you don't understand. This guy's like, blah, blah, blah. Next minute. Like, that's why she's like, she's in the know-how. Like, even with you and stuff, she's like, when she saw it, I was like, what? I'm like, yeah. She'll tell me, like, man, she makes the maddest music. She's got a new mix out, this and that, everything. So, that's how I kind of got into the whole thing. But I've also, like, been respectful in the fact that I'm like, they get caught up in the kind of the commercial aspect of it. I say, yeah. But even with Burna and stuff, like, she was way on it, you know,
Yeah.
before the world
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like
yeah.
now, you know,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, like kind of obviously caught up and kind of, you know,
Yeah.
riding that wave now and
Yeah.
stuff. So it's interesting in that sense. But what do you have kind of going on for yourself now, and what's kind of, is anything coming up?
yeah, I'm releasing my first track
Oh, very nice.
on the 30th of June, so
Yeah.
like 2 weeks.
So when you mean track,
I produced it.
okay,
Yep.
yeah.
I'm trying to be a Black Coffee, but
Yeah,
I'll never
yeah,
be on
yeah,
his level.
That's all right. Just be the first you.
Yeah, I'll be the first me.
Yeah.
So I.
That's dope. So you haven't got a date yet, or?
Yeah, it's releasing on the 30th of June.
Oh,
It's an Amapiano track that I produced, and I have a South African girl that sings on it.
okay, awesome.
Tem Ghazi, I'm not sure if you've heard of her. No, she's like amazing. So
cool.
and the song's in Zulu. So
nice.
yeah, it's super exciting. Super nerve-wracking also, because this is like my body of work that is like going out.
So this is the first time you kind of gone into the producer?
Productions,
Yeah.
First time I've done production, like on the production side, basically. So never wanted to be a producer. I don't know how I ended up here. No, I think it's because I ended since working at the studios.
Yeah.
Just surrounded by like producers and engineers every day. I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll try this out. So super excited about that.
How was that process in terms of
it's long.
putting it all together? Yeah.
I mean, like for me, production doesn't come naturally, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm still learning too, because it's only something I've started doing.
Yeah.
But it's actually given me so much more insight in terms of like, it's weird now when I go and listen to music, I'm not listening to the same things that I was listening to before. Because like, you know, you'll hear like the snares or the hi-hats, or, you know, like you'll hear the slightest thing, you'll be like, oh, okay, they use that. And I'm like, do I really want to do this? Because it's taking away from my, you know, joy.
Yeah.
But it's actually been really interesting to see the whole process in terms of like, after the production, like recording vocals, mixing, mastering, like watching
all the little things that go into it.
Yeah, and just how, you know, each time the track just gets elevated when a new part gets put to it. So that's been really interesting to watch also. That's exciting. And I have an event coming up next Sunday, which is an Amapiano block party.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's...
These boat parties seem to be going around quite a bit.
No,
these
mine's
days.
a block party.
Oh, block party. Sorry,
Yeah.
I thought you said boat party. Okay, block party.
Block party.
Yeah.
It's on land.
Oh, nice.
So you can leave when you want.
Yeah.
So probably boat parties. You can't leave when you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I've got that coming up. It's a new thing that I started last month.
Yeah.
Just because like, obviously, you know, I've been pushing Amapiano for like maybe 5-6 years now, but it's only become popular in like the past year, let's say. So it's kind of like where Afrobeats was 5 years ago, where it just started. This is where Amapiano is right now. So what I wanted to like create an event where it's giving its true form of it, because at the moment, because it is a new genre, it gets mixed with Afrobeats, because that's just how it is. In Australia, basically. Whereas, you know, in South Africa, if you go to an Amapiano, like you listen to Amapiano
completely get that genre
from start to end kind of thing, and it's about the journey again. So I wanted to start a night that you know shows that the authenticity of it, and what the genre is actually about, because Amapiano it's like hip hop basically. It's a culture. It's not just a genre of music. So that's on next week, and what else? I've got a few big shows coming up, which I'm looking forward to.
Nice. It's good that everything's cracking again.
Everything's cracking again, which is good. And then just working on some more production. I want to release another 2 tracks by the end of this year. So yeah.
No, it's good. Keeping yourself busy.
Oh, mate, so busy. I don't know. It's not good.
That's all right, man. As long as you're doing what you want to do, that's what matters,
I am,
right?
but I am also very tired.
Or just,
I forget my age sometimes. I'm like, you should go home now. You've been in the club too long.
Yeah. It's one of those things that just keeps pulling you back, eh? Does it take much? Yeah.
Well, I just, I mean, because I love it. I've always loved it. That's the thing. So I think when you really love something, it keeps you there because they're not the greatest conditions. You know, I've been in the music industry for 20 years now, and it is a tough industry. So you really have to be in this industry if you love it. Yeah. You know, if you love it, then you'll be in it for a long time. But I find if you're in it for the clout or for, you know, it's kind of like, okay, well, I've gotten what I want out of it. I'm out now. But it's the love.
Yeah. Well, Kristelle, appreciate you coming through.
Thank you for having me.
No,
this is fun.
thank you. No, I'm sure. You know, we'll get to do this sometime again.
Yeah.
But I wish you all the best. And look, it was really good to get you. And look, part of the podcast and the whole idea of the platform is to, I guess, you know, celebrate some of the people that are in this culture that are, you know, helping pushing forwards musically in Australia. And you know, and I know that there's many, including yourself, that, like you just said, it's bigger than just you know, your job. It's something you're passionate about, and it's something that I love, just the whole idea of music and how it interconnects with everything and the whole culture. And, you know, that's kind of what I grew up loving. Yeah. And you know, this was kind of my way of you know, providing the platform and letting people know, you know, the people that do exist in our culture that are doing these things, you know, and I know that, you know, you got a big fan base as well, people that love what you do, and it's good to know that you're still leveling up and you got new things happening as well. But no, I appreciate it. Keep doing your thing.
Thank you.
I'm sure we'll get to come check out some of your sets and stuff as well.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to your produced tracks as well. Yeah, as a producer now. 30th of June. Yeah. We'll chuck it up there once we release the pod. But look, I really appreciate you coming out of time. It really means a lot.
Thank you.
It really
Thanks
means
for
you giving
having
me your Sunday as well. And we'll stay tuned.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.